Conservative politician who had a pop at reform in the Commons this afternoon after a video was shared saying that he was defecting to the party, which turned out to be an AI deepfake. George Freeman, MP for Mid-Norfolk and former Science Minister, is with me now. George, great to have you in the studio. Just tell us about this deepfake.
Well, it's pretty extraordinary. My phone went hot. People texted me saying words like calling me names I couldn't repeat on this show. How dare you defect and abandon us? I looked at this video. It was me in my office in Parliament, waving my hands around like I do, saying that the Tory party was finished and I was joining Reform. And I looked and thought, I would never have said that even drunk. Nobody could have recorded it. What's going on? It wasn't dubbed. And then I realised this is an AI deepfake.
So they'd used your voice to make you say something you hadn't said. This is really scary. It's happening. It'll terrify anybody involved in politics from every side.
Yeah, and look, I mean, I'm not a snowflake. I think satire is important in our politics. I've had some very funny videos made of me, and, that comes with a job. But this is different. I think when you start to seriously misrepresent somebody to steal their identity for political purposes, you only have to imagine the day before a general election, videos coming out, people being rude to their constituents, it'd be carnage. So it's pretty important. I got in touch with Meta, who said, no, doesn't breach any of our protocols.
Really?
Yep. Which are all...
So lying about politicians and completely misleading people about what they stand for is acceptable?
Well, according to Meta, yeah. I mean, I get that it's not sexual grooming, it's not... there are some pretty serious offences, but it's still pretty serious for our democracy. I spoke to the police, who said we do take it seriously. We think identity theft is a very important issue. CPS said we'd love to bring a prosecution, but it's almost impossible. You'd have to claim that you were, suffering huge discomfort and...
Well, somebody has to take a prosecution in this area at some point, otherwise it's just going to go on. And, of course, you have to be sure who did it in the first place.
So I do know that.
You do?
Yeah.
Can you tell us any more?
Well, it was pretty clear to me that this was a Reform play in Norfolk. It was a pretty shoddy and amateur, muddy video of me all around Norfolk issues. This wasn't out of some London cyber factory. And... when I challenged and said, look, this is Reform dirty tricks, he put out another one saying that I was now joining Labour. And anyway, the real point is the law is not fit for purpose. And I talked to the Speaker, and I'm building a coalition of cross-party MPs. We have to somehow make sure that this can't go on.
So given that relations are not entirely amicable and friendly in Norfolk, what do you think about the possibility of some kind of arrangement between your party and Nigel Farage's Reform?
I think it's for the birds, for all the reasons that you've just discussed. I mean, Reform, firstly, they've made very clear that they loathe and detest the Conservative Party. They are the kind of armed wing of a never-to-be-appeased, angry minority. Secondly, they have done a very unconservative thing, which has gone down very badly with mainstream Conservative voters in agreeing to lift the two-child benefit cap. And they've sent a signal that they'll do anything, shamelessly, to win Labour votes in the disillusioned North.
They're not here to defend themselves, and they are a very, very different party. But is there not some kind of logic in, quotes, uniting the right? That's what Robert Jenrick says. Get the two unite parties so you're not competing against each other. Otherwise, you might let Labour back in again.
Well, there is a logic, I think, and this Labour government is only in its first 18 months. I think we've got a long way to run in this Parliament, and I think the Conservative Party is, after a horrific period, is back on the front foot, and I think under Kemi Badenoch we're starting to cut through and connect. I think we're a long way from an election victory, don't get me wrong, but we're only in the first year. So I think there's a lot of water to pass under the bridge, and I think the centre of gravity of the public within 2 or 3 years is going to be, we want a pro-enterprise, more realistic, lower tax, responsibility government that doesn't think the state can solve every problem and does the things the state should do well instead of trying to do everything else.
And meanwhile, you are still losing people to Reform. Jonathan Gullis and others have gone. Do you, by and large, look at them and think good riddance?
Well, we're losing one or two MPs who we've already lost. I can tell you in Mid-Norfolk, our membership has started to bounce up again in the last 3 months, really. It's around Kemi Badenoch's performance at conference and her performance around the budget and the focus on economic issues. So all I can tell you is that in my part of the world, where Reform is a real threat, Norfolk is a Reform target county, my 3 neighbours went down in the election, we're in recovery and people are rejoining, partly because they like what they see in Kemi and partly because they're very concerned Reform promising all things to all people. They've become the sort of right-wing Lib Dems.
You sound a bit like the man at the end of Beaugest, kind of defending a fort by himself, running from side to side with your guns. George Freeman, thank you very much indeed for coming in.